Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the silence that had descended upon the gathered visitors, Stephanie's heels clicked against the polished marble of the Forrester mansion's enormous foyer, resonating like a heartbeat. It was meant to be the ideal wedding, with Hope and Liam standing at the altar under a canopy of white roses. Finally, after years of grief and second chances. With her grin brittle from too many almosts, Brooke's hand trembled as she repositioned the veil on her daughter's head. Ridge was the epitome of proud parenthood as he stood next to her, his arm linked around hers, yet his gaze kept straying to the doors, as though he could feel the storm approaching. The doors exploded. Against the pastel sea of bridesmaids, Stephanie Forrester's red costume was a splash of color as she came in, looking incredibly vibrant. The eyes, those piercing, merciless eyes, were the same, but her hair was shorter and streaked with silver. The ones who had governed this household with equal parts dread and love. The ones that had spent years closed in death. The room echoed with gasps. Somewhere a piece of glass broke. Hope turned, white petals falling like snow from her bouquet as it slipped from her fingers. "Mom?" Ridge's voice broke, and the word was hardly audible. Stephanie avoided eye contact with him. She stared at Hope, who was motionless at the altar with Liam's hand still around her waist. The vows hung in the air as the minister stumbled in the middle of her statement. Stephanie's voice pierced the quiet like a dagger as she apologized for being late. "But I had to be at my daughter's wedding." Brooke's knees gave way. Ridge managed to catch her, but his face was pale. He repeated, "Stephanie," more loudly this time as though mentioning her name would make her actual. "You're dead?" Stephanie responded, her lips twisting into a wry smile. "So they informed me. However, it turns out that with the appropriate doctors, death is negotiable. And the proper secrets." The crowd parted like the Red Sea as she took a step forward. She never took her eyes off Hope. Hope opened her mouth but nothing came out. Liam's protective, perplexed hold tightened around her arm. "Wishes," he whispered. Stephanie came to a halt a short distance from the altar. The power was still there, coiled and ready, but the years were visible up close, lines around her eyes, a slight trembling in her fingers. "I hope," she murmured in a quiet, almost loving voice. Brooke said, half laughing, half sobbing, "My girl." "No." The tenderness disappeared when Stephanie turned to face her. "No, this can't." "Yes, Brooke, it can. And it is." She took a folded document with the Forrester crest embossed on the seal, yellowed with age, from her clutch. "I believe it's time for the truth to be revealed. Do you not?" Ridge reached out to touch Brooke's shoulder, but she brushed him off and moved on. "What's the truth, Stephanie? That you're still alive? That while we were grieving for you, you were hiding? When we buried a coffin that was empty?" Stephanie's smile remained unwavering. "That as well. However, no. The reality about her." She gave Hope a nod. Hope's breath caught as she said, "About who she really is." With a calm but trembling voice she declared, "I know who I am. My name is Hope Logan, the daughter of Brooke." Stephanie shook her head slowly. "Deacon's daughter." "No, my love. You aren't." The room whirled. Ridge restrained Brooke as she pushed forward. He cautioned, "Stephanie, don't. This game." "No game, Ridge." Stephanie's tone was stern. "She was born to me. In a Swiss medical facility. 1997. Brooke was ill and you were in Paris. I had lost yet another child. I couldn't carry again, the doctors said. However, there you were, Brooke, fearful, single and pregnant. You pleaded with me to assist you. The scandal was not what you wanted. Deacon's name shouldn't have been on the birth certificate. You desired for her to leave." Brooke's face twisted. "That is untrue," she muttered. "You did." "I would never," Stephanie answered plainly. "You put your signature on the documents. You gave her to me. For the first year silently in Europe I brought her up as my own. I then returned her. Informed everyone of her adoption. The child of a Forrester cousin. But I had her. My blood." The world tilted as Hope gazed at her. "My daughter. You mean that I'm not Brooke's?" Stephanie's eyes grew softer. Liam moved in front of Hope to protect her, saying, "You're mine." "This is crazy. Nuance. You can't just, Stephanie replied. I can. And I have evidence. She displayed the paper. DNA. Records of births. Everything. I've had it for 28 years. Brooke was crying now, her eyes running down her cheeks without sound. Her voice broke as she said, I remember. I recall the clinic. The suffering. I believed I had lost her. She didn't make it, they informed me. They lied, Stephanie said. To keep you safe. To keep me safe. To keep the family safe. Ridge appeared to have been shot in the gut. He told Stephanie, you stole her. You claimed Brooke's baby as your own after taking her? Stephanie corrected. I saved her. From an unprepared mother. From an alcoholic father. Hope's hands went to her tummy, as though she could keep herself together, from a life that would have devastated her. She muttered, all this time. Every fight. The lectures. You were, Stephanie remarked. The way you looked at me like I was yours. You are. Brooke grabbed Hope, but Hope recoiled. Hope said in a harsh voice, Don't touch me. The stunned and horrified wedding guests were motionless. The preacher had long since moved aside, holding the Bible tightly to his chest as a protective barrier. Liam looked at Hope. This doesn't have to be done right now. We can. Hope replied, No. She turned to face Stephanie. Why now? Why now? For a brief moment, Stephanie lost her composure. Because I'm dying, she muttered. This time I'm truly dying. Cancer. Maybe less than 6 months. I couldn't leave you behind. Without being honest with you, I reasoned that it would be too late if I waited until after the wedding. You would be wed. Lost. She broke her voice. And I'd never. She appeared elderly for the first time. Weak. Hope gazed at her, the woman who had tormented her as a child, who had scrutinized every decision she made, and who had loved her passionately, possessively, and unrepentantly. Hope remarked, You ought to have told me. Hope's eyes shifted to Brooke, who was crying uncontrollably now, her flawless makeup gone, and said, Years ago. I know. You let me hate you. I know. You let me love her. Stephanie's chin raised as she said, You made me think she was my mother. She wasn't prepared for the role. I was. Brooke's voice was shattered. I was 23 years old. I felt frightened. I believed I was acting appropriately. You were, Stephanie remarked. For you. Not for her. With a mask of agony covering his face, Ridge moved between them. Enough. You two. Hope wasn't paying attention though. This isn't the place. For the first time she was actually looking at Stephanie. The woman in the stables at Forrester who had taught her how to ride a bike. Who had stayed awake with her during her nightmares. Who had grieved, really cried, when Hope had earned her college degree. You loved me, stated Hope inquisitively. Stephanie remarked. More than anything. More than Eric. More than Ridge. More than this fucking business. Hope's eyes welled up with tears. You were the only thing I ever got right. With a faint, sorrowful smile, Stephanie said. And I hated you for it. I understand. There was a long, oppressive stillness. Hope then took an unexpected action. She took a step forward. Slowly. Consciously. And encircled Stephanie with her arms. After freezing, Stephanie buried her face in Hope's hair and clung to her. Mother and daughter, they stood there while the wedding fell apart all around them. Brooke's heart broke into 1,000 fragments as she watched. Ridge grabbed her, but she retreated. With the ring still in his pocket, Liam stood by himself at the altar. The clergyman cleared his throat. Should I? Nobody responded. With tears spilling down her cheeks, Hope withdrew. She murmured to no one in particular. I can't marry him. Not today. Not like this. Liam's expression dimmed. I apologize, she said. She turned to Stephanie and said, I need to know who I am. Will you tell me? All of it. Stephanie gave a nod. I've left every day. Hope turned to Brooke. I'm not bidding you farewell. Not indefinitely. However, I am unable to be your daughter at this time. I must be hers. Brooke nodded, grief-stricken. Stephanie's hand was taken by Hope. Let's go. Together, they left the life Hope had believed to be hers, the startled guests, and the petals that were all over the place. Ridge watched his mother and his sister's daughter, whom he had never met, leave. Brooke sobbed as she fell into his arms. Liam was by himself at the altar. The wedding ended before it started. Hope sat with the shutters pulled against the afternoon sun in a Beverly Hills hospice room a few weeks later. Although Stephanie's skin had become transparent and she was now thinner, her eyes remained keen. Hope asked, "Tell me about the day I was born." Stephanie gave a weak but genuine smile. "You screamed when you emerged. Little fists. According to the nurses, you would be a fighter." Hope took her hand and said, "I knew you were mine the moment I saw you." "I wish I had known," Stephanie remarked. "You did. The way I stood up for you. How I never allowed anyone to harm you." Hope giggled through her tears, "Even though you despised me for it. Especially then." The monitors beeped quietly as they sat in silence. Suddenly Hope said, "I forgive you." Stephanie's eyes grew wide. "I want to." "You don't have to." Stephanie gripped her hand and said, "For us both. Hope, you are loved. Always have." Hope said, "I know." Brooke waited outside in the hallway with flowers in her arms, saying, "I love you too." She was still not let entry. Hope had requested time. "A bit more time, please." Stephanie's breathing slowed inside. Hope leaned in. "It's all right," she said. "You are free to leave." Stephanie's eyelids blinked. "I'll be fine. Assure me that you will survive. Live a real life. Not for them. For you." "I swear." Stephanie grinned, finally at ease. Then she was gone. Hope remained motionless until the nurses arrived. Brooke was let entry, and life resumed its normal routine. Next to the empty coffin that had housed Stephanie's memory for years, she laid her to rest. 2 tombs. Just one woman. Just one fact. For the first time in months, Hope placed her hand in Brooke's as she stood between Brooke and Ridge during the burial. "I'm still me," she muttered. With tears in her eyes, Brooke nodded, saying, "Just a bit more. You were always." Liam was also present in the rear. He didn't come over. Once anything was broken, it couldn't be fixed with an apology. Hope glanced at Stephanie Forrester's headstone. "My dear mother." On the grave she laid a lone white rose. "Goodbye, Mom," she said in a whisper. It also didn't feel like a lie for the first time. It was a calm afternoon when Stephanie came back to town, the sky a faint blue that seemed almost worn out. After the years she had vanished from everyone's life, nobody had anticipated seeing her again. In any case, Ridge and Brooke would have been shocked by her return, but this time she brought with her a claim that would shatter their world in ways neither of them could have anticipated. There was a tremble and a certain assurance in her voice as she stated that she had come to interrupt a wedding, Hope and Liam's wedding. Her beliefs went beyond simple disapproval or resentment. She asserted that the truth had been suppressed for many years. The wedding preparations were almost finished. When she let herself fantasize about love, Hope was luminous with the gentle joy she always carried. At her side, Liam stood calm and soft, grinning whenever he met her gaze. As if the day itself wanted to bless their union, everyone had gathered in Brooke's estate's garden, where the flowers were arranged in delicate whites and blush tones. Beneath all the beauty, however, lay the well-known undercurrent of Forrester family strife, an unspoken tension that was just ready to explode. When Brooke saw a flash of silver hair close to the gates, she was instructing a florist. She stopped. Ridge sensed her immobility and followed her eyes. Stephanie stood just outside the doorway, silently observing them, her face enigmatic, her posture more slender than either of them could recall. Despite her ruthlessness, she had always been the matriarch and the unwavering pillar of their existence. She appeared to have lost more battles than she would ever acknowledge and had fought them alone. Brooke was the first to approach, her old terror twisting inside her as she hesitated. "Stephanie?" As if talking too loudly might cause the moment to fall apart, she whispered. Ridge trailed closely after, his eyes wide with something more like disbelief and grief than rage. He was unable to complete the phrase, "Mother, we thought." They had lamented her absence, not because she had died, but because she had been abandoned. She had shut all the doors and left without saying anything. Stephanie did not give them a hug. She refrained from crying. "I've come because there is something that needs to be known," she simply stated. "Something that can't wait another day." She looked past them to the backyard, where Liam was adjusting his tie. Hope's laughter echoed softly in the distance, and soft music played as guests arrived. For the first time, they noticed dread in her eyes as her face softened. She declared, "Hope is my daughter." Immediately, angrily, instinctively, Brooke shook her head. No, that isn't accurate. I have Hope. I carried her. She was reared by me. Stephanie's voice pierced her like a cold wind, yet it did not rise. Ridge did not breathe. I gave birth to her. As if struck, Brooke took a step back. The world swayed. The sky grew dimmer. Memories of hospital stays, doctors, unclear dates, and the years when Brooke's emotional life was in disarray raced across her thoughts. Stephanie had always been overly involved and too controlling during that time. Brooke had thought it was deceit. It never occurred to her that it might have been desperation. Tears fell for the first time as Stephanie gazed down. I was ill. I was terrified. I had no help. I was also informed that I couldn't keep her when she was born. They believed she would have a better life with someone who had a stable household and could manage parenting a child. I really believed that I was not entitled to her. Brooke, they put her with you. You cherished her. I thought I couldn't give her what you gave her. Brooke's voice faltered. Why now? Why now? Why would you harm her in this way? To all of us? Liam saw the tension across the yard and started to approach, saying, because she deserves to know who she is before she vows her life to someone else. Hope came next. They moved lightly and naively, as if they were approaching a tale whose sadness had not yet been disclosed. As they arrived at the group, they noticed Ridge's shocked expression and Brooke's tears. Hope's smile vanished in an instant. Mom? Dad? What's happening? Stephanie gave her a serious look. Hope's eyes grew wide as she recognized something she was unable to identify. The elder woman's expression was familiar, as if it reflected something that was buried deep within her. My name is Stephanie, she added quietly. Hope felt the world change beneath her feet as she said, and Hope, I'm your mother. Not shatter. Not break. Change. It was as if something she had always sensed but had never comprehended suddenly took shape. Liam took a step forward. There must be some mistake. However, Hope was initially unable to talk. She gazed at Stephanie, examining her voice and face. She shuddered, not because she was rejected, but because she was grieving for something she was unaware she had lost. Hope stepped back as Brooke reached for her, tears suddenly streaming down her face. You informed me that I was wanted. I thought I was yours, Brooke muttered. Because you told me I was. With disbelief tearing him apart, Ridge rubbed a palm across his face and said, and I loved you as if you always were. Mother, why now? Why now after all these years? Because I didn't come back for a second chance, Stephanie remarked, her voice breaking. Time has not been kind to me, so I returned. I have very little left. And I couldn't come out of this world without giving her the truth. Hope's breath caught when she understood Stephanie's meaning. There was no metaphor in it. It was a farewell. Hope could feel herself being pulled forward. Slowly, as if speaking to someone she had known all her life but had been shielded from. Stephanie tentatively extended her hand, as if she were terrified of being hit. Hope, however, seized her hand. The temperature was warm, delicate, actual. What made you go? Hope muttered, her voice cracking not with rage but with bewilderment. Stephanie shut her eyes. Because I was unsure of how to remain. My own life was drowning me, and I persuaded myself that I had to lose you. But ever since I felt bad about it. Hope didn't lean into Liam, even though his hand was hovering close to her shoulder. There was something more profound going on, something that affected the form of who she was. The unexpected silence and the escalating storm of emotion were becoming apparent to the guests. After a pause, the song ended. Hope turned to face the aisle she was supposed to walk, the seats and the flowers in the wedding area. Now it seemed further distant, as if it had been someone else's. At last she remarked, I need time. Her voice was steady but not loud. I am unable to make vows today. Not in this manner. Despite his broken heart, Liam nodded, saying, I need to understand who I am. For a moment, he drew her into his arms and held her as if attempting to shield something he was powerless to preserve. I'll wait, he said in a whisper. For however long you require. Hope's tears seeped into his clothing. With her hands shaking at her sides, Brooke remained motionless. It was akin to losing a child again. But at last, Hope turned to face her as well and embraced her. "You remain my mom," she muttered. "You brought me up. None of that changes." Brooke wept simultaneously with relief and sorrow. Ridge approached his mother, the person who had shaped and broken him over the course of his life. His hand was on her shoulder. "We'll deal with this. Together. For her." After glancing at him, Stephanie let her son hold her for the first time in years. Two ladies, one via presence and the other through absence, had loved her in different ways, and Hope stood between them. And she was shattered by the weight of that love in ways that no wedding promise could. There was no rejoicing at the end of the day. The blossoms didn't change. No one moved between the rows of chairs that were set up. No music was ever heard again. Rather, there was quiet. It's not a blank quiet, but the type that contains the pain of finally hearing the truth. Hope took the first steps toward reclaiming a life she had never knew was hers amid that solitude.